How's it going, guys? It is Plastic Disasta back with another review and feeding by Heavyarms Obsession. We're going to take a look at the Master Grade Gundam Heavyarms. Now, you all remember the regular Heavyarms, right? But since this is the Endless Waltz version, this is a different take of the Heavyarms. In case if you're asking, well, what's the difference between this Heavyarms and the original Heavyarms? Well, we're going to have to find out throughout the review. So take a look at the box art. Here we see the Heavyarms just blasting everything with its minigun, missiles, chest Gatling guns. You can look at this side of the box. We have the front, the rear view of the kit, and moving on to this side just shows all the goodies that the kit comes with. Moving on to this side of the box, we see the kit in its action pose, and right here we have like a bunch of information. And we also got the other Gundam Wing Boys. I do have the Master Grade version of the Sandrock. I'll review that kit someday. And we also got some pretty nice line art. After opening the box, we got 7 bags of runners and a manual. Going over the highlights of the manual, taking a look at the cover, we see a familiar line art, but the background is missing. And right over here is a nice little detail of number 3. Now, fun fact, Choa does mean 3, but I forgot what language. I don't know, maybe when I'm editing this video, I'll show you what it means. And cracking open the middle of the manual, here we have a nice CG render of the Heavyarms moments. And moving on down here is an advertisement of the Gundam Wing novels. And over here, we have more information and showing off the weapons. And right down here just shows off the other Gundams. Look in the back manual, we have a painting guide if you're planning on painting it. And moving on down, we have a rear shot of the kit once again. And right here just shows off the one point step, excuse me, which I do in most of my reviews. And right down there is a painting guide again if you're painting the pilots. Starting off with runner A is going to be a multicolored runner. We got some white, some blue, yellow, and a light orange. Runner B, white parts. Runner C1 is going to be the red parts. Since there's no runner C2, maybe because there's a P Bandai kit of the Heavyarms custom. Anyways, here we have runner D, more white parts. Runner E is going to be the inner frame parts. Runner F, we have more inner frame parts. Runner G is going to be parts for the Gatling gun, and you know what's funny? Gatling gun starts with a G and it's on runner G. Runner I is going to be the clear piece for the eyes, and something tells me this joke is intentional. Skipping a couple letters in the alphabet, we have runners H1 and H2, and there are going to be the gray parts. Oh, here's an interesting one. We have runner XA and 2 runner XBs. Now, something tells me that they're gonna share the same inner frame, and what I mean by sharing, I mean some of the Gundam Wing kits are gonna have the same inner frame, if you know what I'm saying. So if I'm correct, the Master Grade Sandrock is also gonna have these runners as well. Except you have a tiny sticker sheet, one for the eyes and one for the front and rear of the head camera, and I just pretty much spoiled the stickers. Polycap runner. And finally, you have 2 different marking stickers. So you have the standard one, or the regular one, and you have dry transfer decals. Now, if you don't know what they are, so here's how it works. So you basically need to cut out like a certain decal you want, right? And you have to peel up this little sheet right here and just like rub it on the plastic piece. Guys, editing Plastic Disasta here. Forgot to tell you that you do have a bendable wire for the Gatling gun. So that about wraps up the unboxing, and I am so excited to put this kit together. And this is another 10-year-old kit that I'm gonna take a look at. So I'm gonna put this kit together right now and we'll see how it goes. Here we got the Heavyarms all put together. And putting this kit together was actually really fun. It's not really that complicated, and the color separation on this kit is very well done. As for engineering wise, Bandai nailed it back then, and as of now, it still holds up pretty well. Now there's no need for me to talk about the seam lines, because if there's any, they are pretty well hidden, or it could go as a detail. And as for the stickers, well, I already talked about it for a bit in the unboxing portion, but I already went ahead and start painting the eyes, the forehead, and the back of the head, if you can see it. Other than that, it's a great out-of-box presentation. If you want to just do a snap build and put on the shelf, it'll look fine. But you can still make it look better if you panel light it, I'll put in some decals and top coat it, which I'm going to do right now, and I'll see you guys right after. And after a little bit of work, here is what the heavy arms look like, and I am really happy how this one came out. So I did struggle a little bit on the weathering. Like, I put brown paint like all over it, and then I tried like to clean it up. It could have came out a little better, but again, I'm okay with how it looks. Moving on with accessories, starting off with not hand options, finger options, because you can't swap out the fingers. Starting off what's already on the kit, these fingers already make the closed fist. This one can make the open palm hands. And you have two different sets of the weapon holding hands. Now, what's the difference, you might ask? Well, this one just comes with like a little tab on it if you can see it, but I don't think you really need it. Since we're on the topic of what's already on the kit, you do have these micro missiles. You flip this one out and you just swing the back one out, which reveals more missiles, and you open the chest. You got these two little Gatling guns on the chest. On the skirts, you just have to pull this up, pull it forward, and pull out this part of the side skirt, which reveals more missiles. Finally, moving on to legs, just open these up, and you got even more missiles. Next up, you have its combat knife, which flips out and it stores on the right arm. Now, what's funny is that if you close it, it kind of gets in the way with the shoulders. So I think I would recommend just leaving it out just a little bit if you want to close it up. You have its little shield, which plugs into the left arm, and I did put some marking stickers on it. It doesn't look too bad on a red plastic. Except you have its beam saber arm, and you can use that to recreate that one scene in the anime. And I think this is one of those like situations that you have to pick one thing and go with it. But the thing is, if you went with a beam saber arm, you're not gonna hold the minigun. But if you guys do display the heavy arms with the beam saber arm, let me know down in the comments below. And sadly, you don't get a beam saber effect part. Speaking of the big gun, here it is. Now, this is the part where I kind of nail it on the weathering. Anyways, you do have a secondary handle which swings out, and to store it, you might want to move to the back. You just swing these guys down, and these tabs just plug it into these holes up there. This is how it looks when it's stored, and see that hole right there? That is where you can store the shield. And finally, you get a 1/100 scale pilot of Troy Barton and an action-based adapter. Moving on with articulation, the head is on a ball joint, and there's another joint which you can extend its neck a little upwards. Going onto the shoulder, it can rotate, can swing forward, and it only moves up and down just a little bit. The arm can go out this far, and there's a bicep rotation, bend on the elbow, double joint, and there's a ball joint on the wrist and a ball joint on the thumb. Onto the torso, and let me just open it up real quick just to show you that you can open up, which reveals a pilot sitting in there. Now I know the lighting is not the best, but here it is, and I know you can only see the legs. Anyways, you do have a ball joint on the waist, which gives you plenty of movement. The front skirt can go up this far, and you can even shift up and down. The side skirt can move out this far, and the back skirt can move out this far. The leg can kick up this high, can move back this far. And as for the splits, it could do the full splits. You do get a thigh rotation, double bend on the knee, which gives you some pretty nice armor separation. Okay, so I had to pop off the missile paw on the leg just to show you the movement on the feet. I think it's like a kind of like a double ball joint, which gives you like plenty of range, so you can move up this far, move back this far, and you do get a toe bend. And as for pivot, well, I say you get a pretty nice one. Moving on to the backpack, I already showed you earlier that these can move up and down, and everything else just doesn't move. Overall, the articulation on this kit is actually pretty good. Now, remember earlier on the finger options I told you about that you don't need the weapon holding hands while with a tab? Well, it turns out I was wrong. You really do need it to help it hold the minigun. So moving on to, well, this isn't really much of a size comparison. This is more of a design comparison. And what do you prefer, the Endless Waltz version or the regular version? If we're talking about in terms of looks, yeah, I do prefer the Endless Waltz version, but if you're talking about how it's handled and the way it's engineered, I prefer the high grade version. So now we're moving on to the size comparisons. Here it is right next to the standard size 1/100 scale RX-78-2, and as you can see, the regular Gundam is taller than the Heavy Arms because in the 90s, the Gundams are a little shorter than the standard Gundam. Finally, here it is right next to Optimus Prime, Godzilla, and Lego Batman. So that's gonna be it for the size comparisons. Let's move on to my final thoughts. Moving on to my final thoughts, overall, it's a really nice kit. And by the time this video is released, this kit is already 11 years old. So you might be asking, does this kit age pretty well? Yes, it does. As for the flaws, well, it doesn't have a lot of surface detail, but you can still do some scribing. And another one I want to point out, I did have a hard time putting on the Gatling gun, but if you're patient enough, it'll be fine. And speaking of holding the Gatling gun, no, the weight doesn't bring down the arm, so you can have fun posing this kit. So I do wish the combat knife was handled a little better, but the problem is if it's like attached on the back of the arm, that's gonna hit the ammo drum. So it's just nitpicking. Other than that, give this kit a shot. I think you might like it as much as I do. Alright, so that's gonna be it for the review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys are new here, want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. Any questions, concerns, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Nothing like a dad bring his 2 kids to work.